Andrea from the Denver Public Library ideaLABs. In today's video, we'll be learning all about Scratch. Scratch is a free online programming environment where you can code your own games and animations. In today's video, we'll learn how to navigate to Scratch, log in, create a project, and then share that project in a Scratch Studio. We'll also learn how to use basic computer science concepts like variables, loops, and conditionals. At the end of today's video, you should leave with one working game that you can play and share. As we go along in today's video, feel free to pause as needed and go at your own pace. To use Scratch, you will need a computer or tablet with an internet connection. If you are using a computer, you can also connect a mouse to your device. Using a mouse is not necessary, but it may help you more easily drag items around the Scratch interface. You can also create a Scratch account if you want. You don't need an account to get started, and you can follow along with today's video without one. If you want to share your project with the Scratch community, or save your project to work on more later, then you will want to create an account. When I create projects, I'm often inspired by other things in my life. Something I've enjoyed listening to a lot recently is the song Raining Tacos. So I decided to create a chase game in Scratch, which is inspired by the taco and robot from the music video. If you want to listen to Raining Tacos yourself, you can click on the link available in the video description below. If you want to jump right into creating your own version of this game, you can click the green button which says Remix. This creates a new copy of the game for you to customize. However, in order to remix a project, you will first need to create or log in to your Scratch account. Then, go to our ideaLAB Scratch project page at bit.ly/DPL Scratch Studio and click on the project you want to remix. The project we'll be learning how to build today is called Example Robot Taco Chase, but we have also uploaded some other starter project examples for you to explore. Otherwise, you can keep watching this video to learn how to build the Robot Taco Chase game. You can use Scratch in your web browser or download the app to your computer, tablet, or iPad. In this video, we'll be playing with Scratch in the web browser. We've linked both the online and the downloadable version in the description below. To get started, type scratch.mit.edu into your web browser. Then, if you want to create an account now, click Join Scratch. If you already have an account, sign in with the Sign In button. If you don't want to create an account yet, that's totally fine. You can go ahead and click Create to get started. If you decided to create or log into your Scratch account, click the Create button in the top left corner. This will take you to your main coding screen. If you didn't log in or create an account, you should already be on this main coding screen from when you clicked Create on the main page. Let's get started creating our game. First, I need to create a new project. If you're not already there, you can start a new project by clicking on the Create button on the home page. Then, we need to choose a sprite. A sprite is any character or object you add to your game. The current sprite is the orange Scratch Cat. Remove the current sprite by clicking on the trash can icon just above the sprite. Then, by hovering over the blue cat icon in the bottom right corner, you can see the different options for adding a sprite. Choose from pre-uploaded ones, paint your own, get a surprise, or upload your own. I'm going to click on the magnifying option to choose from one that's already in the sprite library. You can now use the search box to search for different sprites, or you can scroll through all the options. I want to use a robot, so I'm going to search for robot to see all the robot options. Take as much time as you need to decide on which sprite you want to use. When you're ready, click on it to add it to your project. In order to add a background, you can hover over the blue picture icon in the bottom right corner. You will see the same options you had for the blue cat. Choose from pre-uploaded ones, paint your own, get a surprise, or upload your own. This time, I want to choose from a pre-uploaded background, so I'm going to click on the magnifying glass. Now you can see all the different background options. Take your time picking out whatever background you want. When you're ready, click on the background you want to use. Your background and sprite should now both appear on your stage. Now that you have a background and sprite, let's add some code to make your sprite do different things. The block palette on the far left has all the different code blocks. Click on the yellow Events section and drag 2 of the When Space Key Pressed blocks onto the main coding area. Notice that the color block matches the section it comes from. So this yellow block comes from the yellow Events section. You can click through each section you want to see all the blocks for that category. For example, if I click on the purple Looks section, all the purple blocks associated with the looks of my sprite will appear. If a block has a box with a down arrow, it means that block has multiple options to choose from. Click on the box to see the other options. For this block, these different options are triggers we use to decide what happens next. Since you're building a game, let's use the right and left arrow keys on your keyboard. Then, go to the blue Motion section. Drag the Change X By block over to each of the blocks you just added. If you ever place a block in the wrong place, you can drag a block downwards to separate it from the block above it. If you need to get rid of the block, you can then drag it back over to the Code Block palette to delete it from your code area. Now that you've added some code, try using the right and left arrow keys on your keyboard to move your sprite. What happens? It only goes to the right. That's because you changed X by a positive number for both the right and the left key. If you use a positive number, or a number bigger than 0, the sprite moves forward in the X direction. If you use a negative number, or a number smaller than 0, the sprite moves backward in the X direction. You want the right arrow to move the sprite forward, and the left arrow to move the sprite backwards, so let's change the left arrow to be -10. Now your sprite should move to the right when you click the right arrow key, and to the left when you click the left arrow key. What if you want the sprite to move up and down as well as right to left? Since you use X to move right and left, you can use Y to move up and down. Drag another When Space Key Pressed block and change it to the up arrow option. Next, attach a blue Change Y By block underneath it. Finally, we need to do the same thing for the downward direction. If you don't want to drag all the blocks over again, you can also duplicate your block by doing a right mouse click on the block you want to duplicate. Then click Duplicate on the pop-up menu. Notice that when you use this method, you also duplicate all the blocks attached below the block you click on. As with X, when moving backwards, we need to change the 10 to be a -10 in order to move downwards. Now that your first sprite moves in all 4 directions, you can add another sprite for it to interact with. You can add a second sprite by again searching the sprite library. When you hover over sprites, you can see how some of them change appearances. When this happens, it means the sprite has different costumes. Because I want to play with the costumes later, I'm going to choose a sprite which already has different costumes built into it. Once you've decided on which sprite you want, go ahead and click on it to add it to your game. Notice that there are now 2 sprites in the sprite pane and on the stage. When you click on the first sprite, you'll see the code you added earlier. When you click on the sprite you just added, you'll see there's no code yet. This is because each sprite has its own code to control it. You can also tell which sprite you're on by looking at the picture in the top right corner of the code area. You can use the sprite control panel beneath the stage to modify different features of your sprite. Because my sprite is bigger than I want, I'm going to change the number from 100 to 40. My sprite is now a little less than half its original size. You can play around with different numbers until your sprite is the size you want. Once you've done that, let's make your sprite move. When you are chasing someone in real life, you don't know where they are going. Since we are building our own chase game, we want to try and mimic this behavior. In other words, we don't want to know where the sprite we are chasing is going to move next. In order to do this, move the green flag block and the glide to random position block to your code area. Now every time you click the green flag, your sprite glides for 1 second to a new random position on the stage. Try changing the input value to a different number so your sprite glides faster or slower to that random position. What if I want my sprite to keep moving to a new random position without having to keep clicking the green flag? Well, I could try duplicating the blue glide block, so my taco moves to a new random position more than once. With my updated code, my taco now moves 3 times to a random position. But what if I wanted to keep moving to new positions for a longer period of time? Then I would have to add a lot of these blue glide blocks. I think this would get tiresome after a while. So instead, I'm going to shorten my code using a loop. A loop makes it so something happens over and over again. In this case, I'm going to use a forever loop so my taco keeps moving to a random position until I tell it to stop. In order to implement a loop, first delete all but one of your blue glide blocks by dragging them over to the color palette on the left. Then drag over an orange forever loop block and place it around the blue glide block. Try pressing the green flag again. What happens now? Your sprite should keep moving until you press the red stop sign next to the green flag. Now I can chase my taco, but I think it's boring to chase the taco around the screen and have nothing happen. Why don't we try having the robot make a sound every time it touches the taco? To do this, we will use a conditional, also called an if statement. Grab the orange if-then block and place it inside the forever loop and beneath the blue glide block. Then, inside the if statement, use the light blue sensing block to check if the taco is touching the robot. The inside of the if block is what happens when that if, is the taco touching the robot, is true. If the robot is not touching the taco, whatever is inside the if won't happen. So what we want the block to say is, if it's touching the other sprite, then we want to play a sound. Now let's add a sound. Click on the Sound tab in the top left corner. Like with choosing sprites and backgrounds, you can choose a sound from the sound library, record your own, get a surprise, or even upload a sound. I want to choose a sound from the sound library, so I'm going to click on the magnifying glass. You can click on the play button above each sound to hear what it sounds like. Take your time choosing whichever sound you like. Once you've chosen, go ahead and click on it. It will now appear as one of that sprite's sounds. You can now go back to the main code tab. Drag the pink start sound block into the if statement. If it's not already selected, use the drop-down arrow to select the sound you just added. Try out your game. What happens? Your sprite should now make a sound every time it touches the other sprite. When I play a game, I like to see my score so I know how well I'm doing. You can track the score in your game by adding a variable. A variable is something we use whenever we want to remember something. Think of it like a bucket we can use to hold things. We may want to hold a score or the player's name, or in this case, how many times a robot chomped on a taco. To do this, go to the dark orange variable section and click Make a Variable. Name your variable whatever you want. I'm going to name mine Score. You can keep it selected for all sprites in case you want to use this variable for your other sprite later. Now you should have a new variable show up in your blocks and on your stage. I want to keep the variable visible on the stage, so I'm going to leave it checked. If you don't want to keep the variable on your stage, you can go ahead and uncheck it. If you want to change the name on your variable later, or maybe you mistype something, you can right-click on that variable and click Rename Variable. Now let's track the score. I want my score to start at 0 when I start my game, so I'm going to put my set variable block outside of the forever loop. This way the score only resets to 0 at the start of the game. You can have your score start at 0 or whatever number you want. Use the drop-down arrow to set the variable you just created to your start score. Next, I want my score to increase by 1 every time I catch a taco. So I'm going to drag the change variable block inside of my if statement. I want my score to change by 1, but you can have your score change by whatever amount you want. Again, use the drop-down arrow to select the variable you just created. You want to make sure you are changing the right variable each time you catch a taco. Try it out. What happens? Your variable should change every time one sprite catches the other sprite. When I play a game, I also like to know when the game is over. I want my game to end when I reach a certain score, so I'm going to use another if statement to check this. This time, I will use a green operators block to check the score. I want my game to end after I catch 3 tacos, but you can make the end score whatever you want. When I win the game, I also think I want something fun to happen. So in my game, I'm going to have my taco change costumes when the robot catches it 3 times. But you can make your endgame state whatever you want. What is a costume, though? Costumes are different appearances a sprite has. You can click on the Costumes tab to see the different costumes available for that sprite. If you want to add another costume, or create your own costume for a character, you can hover over the blue cat icon in the bottom left corner. I like the wizard costume, so I'm going to stick with that for today. Now go back to the Code tab. Drag over the Switch Costume to block from the purple Look section and add it to the bottom of your code. Use the drop-down menu to select which costume you want. Finally, drag over that same block and place it just under the start flag. Change it to the costume you want your sprite to wear when you start the game. Without this extra block, the sprite won't change back to its original costume when you play the game again. When I win the game, I want everything to stop, so I'm going to add an orange Stop All block after I change costumes. My game is complete. I can now play my whole game and see what happens when I catch 3 tacos. Even though my game is complete, you don't have to be done creating. You can keep customizing your game as much as you like. You can add another sound for when the player wins the game. I am full. No more tacos. Maybe customize your own sprite. Or even code in a background change. To see how we customized each of these games, you can click on the green Remix button or the blue See Inside button on each game's project page. We've linked these 3 customized games in our video description below, and they are available in our ideaLAB Scratch Studio. To learn more about building your own customized games, there are also links in the video description on building games in Scratch, which you can check out from the Denver Public Library. Once you're done creating, you may want to save and share your work. But remember, to do both of these things, you will need to log in or create a Scratch account. If you're already logged into your Scratch account, your project automatically saves as you work. To more easily find my project later, I want to give my project a unique name. I'm going to name mine My Robot Taco Game, but you can name your game whatever you want. Then I press the Share button so others can see my work. Pressing this button will take you to a new page. Here, you can add a description of your project so others know how to play it. We want to see what you create. We invite you to add your project to our ideaLAB Scratch Studio, which can be found at bit.ly/DPL Scratch Studio and is also linked below in the video description. For this part, you will also need an account, so make sure you're logged in. Then, click Add Projects and paste the URL to your project, or you can click on which of your projects you want to add to our studio. By adding to our studio, you can share with other ideaLAB community members and see what other ideaLAB community members are making. We've also added a bunch of different examples for you to remix or to help inspire you. You can also search the online Scratch community to explore other games and projects. We can't wait to see what you create. Thanks for making with me today. I hope that you take some of these skills and make some fun games. If you want to learn more about Scratch, check out some of the resources I've linked in the description below. If you want to show off what you've made, please tag us on social media with #ideaLABmakes.